YouTubers, my name is Andrea René and I am a current Peace Corps volunteer in Nicaragua. Welcome to my channel, Andrea René Abroad, where I talk about Peace Corps, travel, and working abroad. As most of you know, I am currently evacuated from Peace Corps Nicaragua. All 168 of us were evacuated roughly a month ago, and we are still waiting for further notice to find out whether or not we will be returning. But in the meantime, I am still making sure that I make a weekly video for you all. So in today's video, I thought that I would discuss 10 things that I had to give up when I joined Peace Corps. So I'm actually gonna begin with the easiest thing to give up and end with the most difficult thing to give up. So starting with number 10, the easiest thing for me to let go of was personal transportation. So as I mentioned in some of my other videos, I did have my own car and bicycle back in Portland, Oregon, which I actually sold before I left for Peace Corps. And during Peace Corps, you are not allowed to drive. That's one of the big rules. You're not allowed to drive. You're technically not allowed to sit in the back of a truck. You are not allowed to ride a motorcycle. The way that I get around my site in Peace Corps is I use the bus system. So the Nicaraguan bus system is really regular and really safe, and I would use buses to travel around the country, but also I would use the public urban bus. It was called the Urbano in my city. That's the way that I would get to work. I would generally use the bus, but if I was working at one of the schools that were closer to my neighborhood, then I would go ahead and walk. Moving on to number 9, the next thing that I had to give up was animal products. So what do I mean by this? I mean that during Peace Corps, I have mostly adhered to a plant-based diet. So my personal rule in Peace Corps was that I never purchased animal products when I went grocery shopping. I may have mentioned it in my other videos. I do have my own little casita, that means little house in Peace Corps where I live. It's my own little apartment space, and I have my own kitchen and I cook for myself. So my rule was, in my kitchen, I only bought plant-based products. So the reason why I decided to not go completely vegan during Peace Corps and just be vegan in my casita was that if I was ever in a situation where there was not a vegan option, or more importantly, a Nicaraguan was offering me something from their kitchen that they had prepared, they had thought of me, they wanted to include me, the last thing I would want to do was to offend somebody by rejecting food that was being offered to me. The 8th thing that I had to give up, remember I'm going backwards from the easiest thing to give up to the most difficult. So number 8 would definitely be gas lines and ovens. So in Nicaragua, at least in the city where I was living, there are no gas lines leading to the houses. So everyone has their own, we called it tropigas, which is basically one of those propane tanks. So everyone had to buy their own propane tanks, and we would hook it up to our own stove. Kind of connected to that is ovens. So I did not have an oven in my casita. I only had two stove burners. So I definitely missed the ability to be able to bake, but that also takes a lot of gas. So even if I did have an oven, I don't know that I would use it anyways. So the next one might sound kind of silly. This is number 7, and it is big mirrors. Maybe part of the reason why this is on my top 10 is because I was a ballet dancer for a really big portion of my life, and then continued to just go to ballet the same way that some of you might go to yoga class or Pilates or whatever. So I was very used to having that studio space mirror to glance at myself and look at myself in the mirror. I was always very aware of what I looked like all the time. So then when I moved to Nicaragua, I only had like a bust mirror. I didn't have any full-length mirrors anymore. It was kind of interesting because then I wasn't, fretting over the little things as much. I think here in the United States, I sometimes felt like I had too much access to mirrors. Us girls, sometimes we start fussing over our eyebrows or whatever, or our pores, and we end up doing more damage than good, really. So it was kind of nice to not have access to big mirrors, but it was also still something that I had to give up. All right, so number 6 is a washing machine and dryer. I bet some of you were wondering whether or not this is going to be on my list. In Peace Corps, I do not have a washing machine, and I definitely don't have a dryer. Some of the other Peace Corps volunteers in my group did live in houses where there were washing machines, but mine was not one of them. But since I had a casita, I did actually have my own washboard. It's called a lavandera or pila. I did have my own pila in my casita, which was really great because that means that I was able to wash basically whenever I needed to wash. Okay, number 5 is libraries. So I was an English major, and I'm also a certified language arts teacher, so I'm sure you can guess that I'm a really big reader. So it was really hard when I moved to Nicaragua, and there's just not a culture of literature there. Now, okay, if anyone's trying to catch me, they do have a literary hero, Rubén Darío. He is a poet. I will acknowledge him. But beyond Rubén Darío, there really isn't, and a few other authors, there really isn't like a culture of books and reading in Nicaragua. Most people in the evening spend time on their TV or their phone and just kind of chilling that way instead. Nobody really reads in the evening, at least in the socioeconomic class that I was interacting with. And there is almost like no access to books. The places that are called librerias, I know that sounds like libro, which is the word book in Spanish, but librerias in Nicaragua actually is just like an office and school supply store. They don't usually carry too many books. Kind of difficult to find books in Nicaragua, honestly, so I really missed having access to my library. So the next item on my list is outdoor exercise. So I am from the Pacific Northwest, and here in the PNW, there is just a huge culture of outdoor exercise and sports. We're really close to the mountains, we're really close to the ocean, we're surrounded by beautiful forests. I was so used to going out in nature all the time, pretty much every weekend growing up. So that was really difficult when I got to Nicaragua and realized that there are definitely a lot of things to do outside. You know, you can go hike the volcanoes and stuff, and there's also trails that you can hike, but I would generally want to do those things with other Americans or a trusted Nicaraguan friend, and there just wasn't as much ability for me to be able to do that with the same frequency as I did in the United States before I left for Peace Corps. The second from the top for me of most difficult things to give up when I left for Peace Corps was dance. Well, let me go back a little bit. So I was trained in ballet from the time that I was 2 until I graduated from high school. At the end of that, during high school, I was going 10 to 11 hours a week to the studio. So I spent a lot of my teenage years in the dance studio. So it was a really big part of my life. I did quit dancing during college, but then in graduate school, I picked it back up again and just immersed myself in it completely. I also picked up hip hop during that time, and I just got very used to having access to the dance studio all the time, being able to go to classes. And so when I went to Peace Corps, I thought, okay, maybe I'll try and find somewhere I can dance. And while there is folkloric dance in Nicaragua, my site didn't really have any places where I could take lessons or immerse myself in the local dancing culture in Nicaragua. So that was really hard for me. I would often just dance alone in my room when I got really desperate, just put in my earbuds and then dance around, but nothing replaced being able to go to the studio itself. So when I came home for Christmas break, I went a whole bunch. I have not gone to the dance studio during my evacuation because just like financially, I don't really know where I stand. Yes, we're getting a per diem right now, but I don't know how long I need that money to last in case I don't go back to Nicaragua. So I'm just trying to play it safe. So I've been just exercising in other ways, but definitely I still love dance. Dance is still very important to me, and should I find myself in a more permanent situation in the United States again, I will definitely go back to the dance studio. Okay, the number one most difficult thing that I had to give up during Peace Corps was proximity to family and friends. So this probably doesn't come as a surprise. I'm sure many of you are thinking about this. If you are planning to apply to Peace Corps, that's probably one of the first things on your mind, especially if you have a significant other. I don't, so that made it a little bit easier for me, but I definitely have some peers who did leave significant others and even husbands and wives back in the US while they did service. But the good thing is I did land in a house with Wi-Fi, so I have been able to keep in really close contact with my family and friends during Peace Corps. During my time in Peace Corps, my mom actually was able to come and visit me, and it was super lucky because she actually visited me the month before I got evacuated. She came and stayed with me for the full amount of time that someone is allowed to visit you during Peace Corps, and then my best friend also visited me during my service. It can be a really amazing experience for people to come and visit you during Peace Corps because, especially if it's someone who's really close to you, like family or really close friends or a significant other, chances are you've already been telling them so much about your Peace Corps experience, and for them to come and see it with their own eyes is just a really awesome experience. So there you have it. Those are the things that were the most difficult for me to give up during Peace Corps. Again, from the easiest to the most difficult, it was personal transportation, animal products, so veganism, gas lines and ovens, big mirrors, washing machine and dryer, libraries, hot water, outdoor exercise, dance, and proximity to family and friends. So those were the things that were the most difficult for me. If you are a current volunteer or an RPCV and you have some different things that you thought were really difficult to give up during Peace Corps, go ahead and comment below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you all next week.